Let me share with you 3 of my best all-time driver videos. You know, driving doesn't have to be that complicated, especially when you get some of the secrets that I'm going to share with you here. Let's go and get started. Hey guys, welcome to beautiful Heathrow Country Club in Lake Mary, Florida, my home course. And we're going to talk about 3 tips that are really going to help you to hit your driver much better. Now, when you get up to those holes, they got a little bit of water on them. Maybe you get those par 5s like this. It's just so much more enjoyable to smoke a driver right down the middle of the fairway and not even have to worry about being in the rough or out of bounds or that kind of thing. So we're going to do 3 things that you absolutely must do to hit your best drives. Let's go and get started. All right, so the first piece I want to talk about is what I call snap, don't slap. So nobody wants to slap at the ball. We don't want to lose that club head speed. And when we slap at the ball, basically what that means is I'm using my hands kind of back and forth this way. Oftentimes I'll cast a little bit and then the club head outraces my hands and I end up kind of slapping at the ball. The disadvantage of that is now my club face is very inconsistent. One time it's closed, one time it's open, and I'm also going to have a tough time getting speed from this. So let me go ahead and hit one. I'll talk a little bit about this slow motion video that's going to come up here in a second. So I'm going to try to slap at this ball, really cast it from the top. Yeah, and I hooked that ball 40 yards to the left, almost onto the road. Hopefully I didn't hit a car over there, but it's very difficult to be consistent when I'm doing that. There's no way I can hit a fairway when I'm swinging this way. What's happening is, if we look at our wrist and we kind of put them in front of us, if I bend my wrist to the right this way, this would be flexion with my left wrist. It's called extension with the right wrist. We don't need to know those terms. That would be to the right and then back to the left. A lot of times people think we need to get speed by doing this and by kind of pushing the club through to help to accelerate it. When I do that, that starts to flip the club, to slap the club, and it's going to outrace my hands. Anytime the club head gets in front of your hands before contact, you are dead in the water. It is going to be almost impossible to have control of that club face. When it outraces them, it becomes very, very unstable. That's a slap motion, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. Now, a snap motion is very different. I still want that club to release, so I want to have some lag. I want to get that club to whip on through. It's snapping. I'm getting that speed at the bottom, but it's when I'm doing that and how I'm doing that that's going to make a world of difference. So as I'm about halfway in my downswing, you'll notice that's what we call our maximum lag position. So in that max lag, now I've created this big angle with my hands and my arms. My body's going ahead and opening up, and as I continue down, now my club still has a pretty good size angle in it. If you look at the butt end of this club, if you imagine a laser beam kind of shooting out of there, it's not turned back up yet. My club isn't pointing back up toward my body. It's pointing out kind of down the fairway. Now from here, to get that club to really release, I want to snap the club head. That's when I'm going to start turning this club head back up, or this grip back up, to release the club head and to get a lot of speed from the club head there. So that's what we call the snap action. You can call it the release, you can call it whatever you want to. And the big key to really put this together that we talk about in the Top Speed Golf system is I want this to release about 45 degrees in front of me. So if I imagine a line going from my chest 45 degrees out in front, whenever that club gets fully released, now it's going to be pointing in that direction. So I'm still letting that club whip on through or snap through, but it's not a slap. I'm letting that happen in front of the golf ball, and now my club is just kind of trailing along behind. The golf ball is just getting in the way. I'm releasing out in front, and that impact is just happening. So let me go ahead and hit one here the correct way. We'll show you some in slow motion. I'll give you a couple tips on how to do this exactly. There we go, hit that one great, right down the middle of the fairway. I got that lag, and then I got that to release out in front. Now in the first one, we talked about how we didn't want to push with the hands or wrist, because now my club head outraces my hands and it gets really unstable. In this one, now I'm taking my hands here down at the ball. You'll notice my right wrist is angled back in what we call wrist extension, or my knuckles back to my elbow. I'm going to feel like my palm of my hand is still facing down to the ground. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and feel like I do this motion. So if I'm casting a fishing pole, my thumb goes from up to really going down this way. That's what's called ulnar deviation, or just a casting or a flip type motion. I'm doing that way down here at the ball in that type of a direction. So my hand isn't going this way and cupping, it's going down, just like I'm doing this with a fishing pole. And now as I do that in front of the golf ball, that's going to release that club. Notice how here, both my wrists are nice and straight. There's no bend in those at all. If I was flipping, that would look like this as I'm coming through impact. And my wrist would be cupped here, and it would be bent forward like that with this other hand. That's gonna lead to a lot of inconsistency if you're doing that. So let's pause just before impact. We got a nice angle, this wrist is flat. At this point, my thumb is pulled back toward my body. I've got all this lag, and then we're gonna pause in the straight line release in the top speed golf system, and we're gonna work on this thumb being down. So I went from the up to down. That's that whip action that's happening through there. That's that snap. And when I do this correctly, I feel like I'm just gonna take the bottom 2 inches of this grip with my bottom 2 fingers. That's where I'm gonna feel the pressure there. And I'm just gonna snap the shaft, snap that grip right off the club. That's gonna help with a ton of speed. So let's go ahead and pause and do that about 15, 20 times. Pausing here, and then boom, releasing that, pausing here, wrist nice and flat, wrist turned down. After we've done that about 20 times, let's get that same feeling in more of a full swing, just a practice swing there. So we're not gonna hit any balls yet, we're just gonna get used to that feeling, and then we can go ahead and take it on out to the driving range and start hitting some shots and then out onto the course. All right, so that's piece number 1, snap, don't slap. Piece number 2, it's the same old saying we've heard for a long time, but with a new twist, we're gonna tee it high and let it fly. Now the reason you wanna tee this ball high is a couple of things. So first off, if I have a great drive, what's happening are 2 things. Number 1, I'm gonna hit this ball a little bit higher on the club face. Now as I start to hit it a little higher on the club face, there's actually more loft on the top of your driver. Your driver isn't flat like a sheet of metal, it's actually rounded. If you were to take this and bring this out into a full circle, it actually makes about a 3-foot circle is how the face is curved. So it has a slight curve to it, meaning at the bottom of the driver, you're gonna have a lot less loft. This is an 8.5 degree driver. At the bottom, there's probably 5 or 6 degrees, 4 degrees, something like that. At the top, there's probably 12 or 13 degrees. So if I hit it at the top of the face, it's gonna launch higher. That's great for distance. That's what we really want. The second piece is, as I make contact higher, it actually has a gear effect, and the ball is stuck to the face and actually puts a little top spin, not really top spin, just less backspin, and it gets the ball to knuckle through the air. That's a real key for high, long drives. The higher I can hit it, hitting it on the top of the face, and the less spin I can have, also hitting on the top of the face, means the longer drives that I'm gonna have. That's the first piece. The second piece to this is I actually wanna be swinging up on the ball. Again, if I'm coming down on it, I'm kind of swiping across the ball, and now I'm getting all this backspin. The ball wants to shoot up, kind of float in the air, and then fall out of the sky. You don't get any kind of good distance. But if I can set this ball up where I'm actually swinging up on it, now again, it's gonna promote that higher launch, and it's gonna promote that lower spin. So the more I can hit up on this golf ball, the better I'm gonna be for creating as much distance as I can. Well, if I have the ball low on the ground, let's imagine this ball is barely teed up on the ground, just like this, it's teed up on the turf. If I swing up, if I try to hit up on this, now I'm gonna miss over top of the ball. No way to make it happen. Plus there's no way to hit it anywhere but the bottom of the face. So I want this ball teed up nice and high so that I can hit it on an ascending angle, on an upward angle, and still make contact with the top of the face. Now with your iron shots, it's gonna be on the ground. We're gonna have to hit down on it. If we had the luxury of teeing up iron shots, we'd do the same thing, but we don't. We have to hit it off the ground. That's why you hit down and take a divot with your irons. That's the easiest way to hit it off the ground, and that's why this is different with the driver. So a couple things that we want to note here, and I'll show you some slow motion video with this also. I'm gonna play this up in my stance slightly. I got the ball teed up. For me, I like to have it at least a half a ball above the club or a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and tee this on about 3/4 of the golf ball sticking up above the crown. I'm gonna have that a little bit up in my stance. If I really wanna get a hold of one, get some extra distance, I'm gonna play it up here toward my front foot. Again, that's gonna help promote me hitting it on the upswing. And then number 3, I'm gonna visualize in my mind that I'm gonna go ahead and knock it off the top of the face. I don't wanna get anywhere near the bottom of the face or it's gonna kill my distance. So I put the ball up in my stance, I've got it teed up nice and high, and now I'm gonna feel like I'm swinging up on the ball and de-lofting the face so that I still get that high knuckler, almost a little bit of top spin on the ball is the way that you wanna think about this. So if I do those things, man, that's really gonna help me to increase my distance. That one felt great. Big high ball, knuckled through the wind, really nice shot. Now I saved the best for last. I know a lot of you guys out there are having those balls that slice. If you get into any kind of wind or you struggle at all with distance, that slice is actually just going to eat up your distance really, really badly. So if I want to hit it farther, I've got to hit a little bit of a draw or at least dead straight shot if I want to get the maximum distance on there. That's going to get the least amount of spin. That's going to help the ball to really launch pretty fast. So when I'm setting up to this golf ball, a lot of times what I have people visualize is that they're coming through and the face is really square. And they imagine they're just going to kind of pull this club through square and the ball is going to go right down the middle of the fairway. And when they have that visualization in their mind, because they struggle a little bit with the slice, the ball just tails off to the right and tends to slice. If you feel like you're going to hit it square and 90% of the time it's either fading or slicing, this is really going to help you. So I want to imagine the club face, imagine that piece of metal is going to wrap around the outside of the ball. So if I'm looking at this golf ball from my perspective and I kind of put a line through the middle of the ball, that would be dead square. If I hit right on that line, that would be a square shot. Now when we do that, like we just talked about, we tend to slice. That means my club was actually a little bit on the inside of that line. What I want you to feel like you're doing is to get that club to wrap around to the outside of the golf ball and hit on the outside of that line. Now what that's doing is that's closing the face a little bit more. And when you first do this, you're going to start to hit some shots to the left. That's okay. That just means you're doing a little bit too much, but that ball is going to start left and it's going to hook even a little bit more to the left, especially for you guys that are coming over the top. Now I'm getting to the outside of that ball and it's starting left, going even farther left. That's all right. Let's start out on the range doing this, and I want you to hit those shots that do go to the left, and then gradually we're going to start to come a little bit more from the inside. I'm going to feel like if I'm at home plate and the second base and the baseball field is directly in front of me, I'm swinging more out toward first base or the visitor's dugout. And now I'm going to be releasing that club, getting it to outside the ball. So what's going to happen is the ball's going to start a little bit straighter and then it's going to draw. After you've gotten a few of these in where that ball actually starts to turn on over a decent amount, let's just tone that down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and hit one and really exaggerate though. I'm coming inside and out and I'm letting that face turn over. Now as I'm doing this, the feeling that I'm getting in my hands, if you go ahead and set this club up here, is that I'm taking this club and I'm twisting it just like I'm turning a clock. Like if you can imagine the butt end of the club is a clock face and I'm going to turn that, that's rolling the club. You'll notice when I do that, my left wrist bows. That's what everybody wants at impact. That really helps. That's what the pros are doing. And my right wrist kind of turns knuckles back this way. That's what's going to release that face as I'm doing that. So we can see that would really get that face to turn on over. I'm going to exaggerate here. Hopefully we can see this on camera, but I'm really going to get this one to swing from right to left. There we go. So we saw that one started down the middle of the fairway, hooked over to the left, almost by the trees. I'm right on track. That's what I want to have happen at first if I'm struggling with that slice. Now the second piece to this, after you've hit about 15 or 20 balls doing that, and you've got the feel for that, I'm just going to tone down a little bit. Don't let that club release quite as much to the outside of the ball, and don't swing quite as far to the right. And now you're going to have that little baby draw that everybody wants to have to get the maximum distance. All right, guys. So take those 3 tips. Number 1, snap, don't slap. Number 2, tee it high. Get that ball to launch high with low spin. And number 3, get that club head to the outside of the ball to get that nice draw. All right, now the setup can make or break your golf swing. There's one thing that every good player does, and if you want to hit the driver well, you have to do this right. Now, in the downswing, that club has to shallow out. And what I mean by this is when your hands are roughly shoulder high or chest high in the downswing, we got to have this club shaft pointing out to the golf ball. If the club shaft is steep, then we're going to have to reroute this and things get a little bit dicey. Now, if we get this club shallowed out, we also have to do something after this is very important. As we're making the downswing, when the club's what I call last parallel, or the last time the club shaft is parallel with the ground, we have to have that golf club, if this is pointing down my target line or straight toward my target, we have to have that golf club inside that target line. Now that's what's called the slot. And crazy enough, it doesn't matter if you're hitting a draw or a fade, you want that club inside the target line on both of those. If I'm playing a fade, it's inside the target line and I swing a little more left. If I'm playing a draw, it's inside the target line and I swing a little bit more to the right. So it doesn't matter any shot that you're hitting, we always have to have that club to the inside and shallow. Now, if you don't set up right, it makes it daggone near impossible to do those 2 things that we just talked about. If you do sit upright, it's a lot easier. So let's start out with the most important part, and this would be the grip. It all kind of starts from the grip. Now, if you imagine, if I take this grip and my palms of my hands are more vertical, or even, heaven forbid, to the left, it's going to be very tough to get in this position. Let's start out with palms left. Now, here's the way I like to teach the grip if I'm doing it very, very simply. The palms of the hands, as they tilt more this way, that would be a weaker grip. As they go more this way, that would be a stronger grip. So if I'm setting up at this golf club, I open up my hands and I make my palms here. Then I take my grip. You can see how my right hand is more on top. My left hand is more underneath, or basically my palms are turning more this way. Now I can get into infinite detail about exactly how you should do it. That doesn't matter nearly as much as just what the palms are doing. So if I get my palms more this way to the left, that's going to automatically kick my upper body. Watch how it gets on top now. Look how my right shoulder gets kind of high and out in front. If you were to put a club on my forearms now, I've tilted these forearms to the left if I'm looking down the target line. So as I do that, look at the shoulders, look at the forearms. Right forearm gets higher than my left forearm. All this goes to the left. Well, that sets me up in a position to where I'm going to be steeper in the downswing and swinging more to the left instead of getting shallower and from the inside. Make it easy on yourself. We make golf so daggone hard, it doesn't have to be that hard. Go ahead and get your palms about what feels like 45 degrees to the right. So again, if I'm going to set up to this golf club, open up my hands and make my palms, and then I'm going to turn my body. Right shoulder now gets lower. My upper body gets more behind. My right palm feels like it's under the club. Left palm is on top. And now when I take the grip from this position, I'm much more from the inside. Now you notice this. When I do that, look at that right forearm now. That gets lower than my left forearm. I want that right forearm slightly lower if I want to make sure that I get from the inside. The second one there is you can see that my shoulders are now behind my hips. So just changing my grip, got my sternum or my shirt buttons behind my belt buckle. That's a great position to be in to now get from the inside and shallow that out. And then finally, that gets my body just a little bit more closed or to the right, the entire thing. So even my knees are going to feel like they're slightly more to the right. So change that grip. Get the palms 45 to the right. That's going to tilt your shoulders, get you from the inside. And now I feel like I'm going to slot this club in here. And again, we make it so daggone hard. It doesn't have to be that hard. Get 10 times too much to the inside. I never see anybody over shallow it. I never see anybody swing too much from the inside. Swing as far from the inside as you can. And then once you start to overdraw it, just tone it down a little bit. Feel like you play a little bit more of a fade and it'll be that nice tight draw. So here we go. Big time tilt to the right. I'm going to overdo this. Way shallow from the inside. I'm going to feel like my club touches this wall and then I just swing out to the right. If I overdraw it, heck, who cares? I'm going to be killing it when I do that. Let's go ahead and give it a whirl. There we go. Started that one to the right, drew it back. Not going to hit it a whole heck of a lot better than that. Now, there's one really easy way to swing a golf club. And simply put this, everybody that swings really effortlessly has a very repeatable swing. They're going to shallow that club out from the inside. Where the inconsistency comes from is if I get a little steep on the downswing, all of a sudden, what I mean by steep is when my hands are about shoulder height or chest height in the downswing, if I drew a line down this club shaft, if it hit inside the golf ball, that would be a steep swing. If I get it at the golf ball or even a little bit outside the golf ball, that would be shallow, what people call in the slot. All these great terms that you hear, those are from shallowing out this golf club from the inside. And that's what you see virtually every single pro do. Now, there's a great easy way to learn this that's intuitive. Imagine I had both of my hands, I just made a golf grip here, and I was going to hit somebody with my elbows. That's kind of a weird feeling, but I'll walk you through it. So I want to get my elbows, my right elbow is tucked, my left elbow is out toward that person. Imagine I was going to hit them with my elbows this way. That would get the club way inside. Now, there's a great way you can feel this. Go ahead and choke up on your grip to where your hands are actually on the club shaft here and the grip's sticking out. Now, if I did this same motion, I got this grip sticking out and I hit somebody with my elbows, it'd be like I'm hitting them in the belly button here with this grip of the club, the butt end of the club. So as I get in that position, I could really just put that into them, and all I'd have to do is rotate my body to make that happen. I wouldn't be doing some kind of weird manipulation with the hands and arms, or I'm trying to do something funky with the club. I'm just getting my elbows toward that person, and I'm rotating my body. And you can see here, that was a golf swing. That would be very shallow from the inside. And the great thing about this is, when I get that far shallow, when I get that far from the inside, now I can open up as hard as I want to, and I don't have to worry about coming over the top. I don't have to worry about being steep, right? So once my elbows get here, the club gets in, I can forget about this steep shaft and worrying about going this way. So that's piece number one. Now this is gonna get you to swing well out to the right, but we may hit a few blocks when we do this. They're gonna go hard, they're gonna go a long way, but they may end up just going out to the right. Let me give you an example of what that would look like if I did that in a full swing. So this one's I'm gonna hit the heck out of this thing, but it might go a little bit too far to the right. There you go, and again, that was killed. Straight as a string, good as I can hit one, 319 total, 173 ball speed. Look at the spin. This is one thing I love about this. 1,800 RPMs of spin is fantastic. That's really, really low. That's gonna get that ball to knuckle through the air and just go a really long way. That's from being shallow also, because now I'm hitting it more on a level angle of attack or even up into it. You don't even have to think about that. That just comes naturally. But that's the first step. That ball may be going out to the right a little bit too much. Now the second step is to get the club head to release the proper way. Now when I come through, let's go ahead and get in this. I'm going to jab somebody in the belly button with this butt into the club. That's my lag position here. That's kind of halfway in the downswing. The second piece is going to be what I call parallel in the fall through. So as I swing through here, when my club shaft is parallel to the ground, I want to do two things. Number one, I want the club face to be past vertical. So this would be my club face straight up and down. You can see the top edge of the club is straight up and down. If I'm straight up and down, that's going to be a fairly straight shot. If I'm anywhere to the right of that, that's going to be a fade. I want to go ahead and draw this ball, so I'm going to close it quite a bit. Let's overdo it to start. I'll get in this elbows in front position, and then from there, I'll release this club, let's say 45 degrees closed. That's going to be the first piece. Now, as I'm doing that, notice how that club, the shaft, is pointing out to the right. I don't want to do this as I'm coming through and have the shaft to the left. I want to release that out to the right with a closed club face. That's the first piece. Second piece is I want my right elbow, when I do that, to be lower than my left elbow. So I don't want to roll my body and do this and try to kind of stand up out of my posture to roll that club, and now all of a sudden my right elbow is higher than my left elbow as I'm coming through. So that would be this, and then I kind of lose it and I stand up out of my posture. I don't want to do that. I want to go ahead and release this club, keeping my right arm under my left arm. It feels a little bit unnatural when people do this at first until they see how far they hit those draws. This is a very powerful position. Then you just release it on out there, and that ball is going to draw every single time. So let's go ahead and give it a whirl. I'm going to go ahead and try to get that good release we just went over with that lag shallow position we went over in the beginning of the video. We're going to pair both of these up. There we go. Hit that one great. And I even overdid it there a little bit, talking about releasing that face a little too much, and got a big draw. Totally fine. That's exactly what I want you to do at first. Then once you get those draws going, just back up off of it a little bit. Instead of closing the face, say 30, 45 degrees, we get it more toward that vertical straight shot like I was talking about there. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. A lot of people try to do this by rolling their forearms over each other this way. That would mess everything up. You see, if I got in that position and I rolled my forearms, all of a sudden my right arm is well above my left. I have to do something different with my wrist to be able to solve that. So what the pros are doing is they're moving their wrist in a certain way that allows them to square that face up and roll it without having to get that right arm over it. So we talked about the elbows. What makes it even easier than that is understand what the pros are doing with their wrist angles to make that happen. It's what I call the anti-roll method. And I'm going to teach it to you. It's a really cool technique. I can't wait to show it to you. I'm gonna play a preview of the anti-roll method video here in just 1 second. All you need to do is go ahead and click on one of the cards that pops up on your screen. If you don't see one of those cards, just go down to the link in the description below, click the link there, you'll get instant access to that video. I can't wait to share it with you, help you hit the best drives of your life. Let's go and get started. So here's the bottom line. If you've been taught to roll the club in the early downswing, that causes the shaft to get steep, and that steep club causes all your problems. Causes you to hit it way behind the big hitters and way inconsistent with your quality of strikes. So you're in the tall grass and the trees and the hazards all day long. Now the great news is this, there's really only 2 pieces that you need to know to fix all these problems. The first one is we need to learn the proper way to square up the club face. Instead of rolling the forearms and getting steep, there's another way that the pros do this. Once you learn this right way to square up the club face, then you can shallow out from the inside and everything starts to fit together. Now I'm going to teach you this right now in what I call the anti-roll method. You may also hear this called the motorcycle move or the tour twist, but let's walk through exactly how to do that. Now what I want you to do is go ahead and go kind of in the last parallel in the downswing. So here, I want my hips to go ahead and be opening up. I want my club to be parallel with the ground, and I want my hands to be in front of my right thigh. Now, when I take my grip, you're going to notice that when I do this, the club face is basically straight up and down. So if I'm looking at it from this angle, you'll see the face is straight up and down, and my logo of my glove is pointed out in front of me. Now from there,